Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Thought Podcast, where we dig up, cool ideas from places you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, sometimes those ideas pop up in the strangest corners.
That's right. And today's episode is a perfect example. We're going to be looking at Stoic wisdom.
Timeless advice that's just as useful now as it was centuries ago.
And get this, all this wisdom we're about to uncover comes from a YouTube video transcript.
Yeah, the comments section can be surprisingly philosophical sometimes.
I know, right? I mean, who knew? So let's jump right in. One quote that really grabbed me was, there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will.
I think that's a great place to start. It cuts right to the heart of Stoic thinking,
Yeah.
recognizing what you can control.
Versus what you can't.
Right. We spend way too much time stressing over things we have absolutely zero power over.
Which just makes us miserable in the present moment.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we're always trying to manage a future that hasn't happened yet, instead of just living our lives now.
I definitely do. That I'm sure most of us can relate.
To some extent, we all do. But the Stoics remind us that worry is a choice. You don't have to do it.
So instead of stressing about that traffic jam,
Enjoy the music on the radio or use that time for some mindfulness.
it's about shifting your perspective, isn't it?
Exactly. And speaking of perspective, another big idea in this transcript is that it's not the events themselves.
It's how we judge them that causes suffering.
Right. It's not about denying reality. It's about choosing a perspective that lifts you up instead of dragging you down.
Like how Socrates viewed death, he wasn't scared of it.
Exactly. He saw it as a natural part of life. Nothing to be afraid of.
This transcript puts it like this. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things.
That's a good one. So if we can learn to control our judgments,
We can control our experience of the world.
pretty powerful, right?
Yeah.
The source describes someone who's mastered this as someone who reproaches neither others nor himself,
Meaning they take responsibility for their own experience.
without blaming anyone, but also without beating themselves up.
That's like next level emotional maturity.
Yeah,
Something to aspire to, for sure.
definitely. The Stoics also talk about living in accordance with nature.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, it has two parts. First, accepting the natural world as it is, with all its changes and challenges.
Okay. And second,
Living in harmony with your own human nature, recognizing your strengths and limits.
so not trying to force the world to be what you want it to be.
Right. It's about aligning yourself with the way things actually are.
And part of that alignment is focusing on developing virtue.
The source emphasizes that true wealth isn't about stuff. It's about having few wants.
I love that quote. If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich.
So true. There's another great line that says, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it."
That one really hit home for me, too. It applies to anything we believe in, not just philosophy.
It's easy to talk the talk, but walking the walk is a whole different ballgame.
So much easier to explain our ideals than to actually live them out in the real world.
But that's where the real growth happens.
It's where the rubber meets the road. Speaking of falling short, this next quote about anger got to me.
Let's hear it.
Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him.
That's a powerful one. It's all about controlling your reactions.
Like when someone pushes your buttons and you let them.
When you let someone else dictate your emotional state, you're giving them power over you.
I really like this suggestion, to try and understand what's causing someone's anger, to see it from their side.
Empathy can be a powerful tool for de-escalating conflict and building understanding.
This source material is a gold mine. There's also this interesting idea that being too comfortable can lead to suffering.
That's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is. But the Stoics believed that a life of ease and luxury could actually make you weaker.
They believed that comfort could erode your resilience and sense of purpose,
And that's why they practiced voluntary hardship.
to strengthen their minds and spirits.
Like Marcus Aurelius sleeping on a hard bed.
And Seneca swimming in freezing rivers.
They understood that facing discomfort, even in small doses, can help you grow stronger and appreciate the good things even more.
The challenge for us is to find that balance between comfort and challenge in our modern lives.
Right. It's not about rejecting comfort altogether.
It's about being mindful of how much you rely on it.
So maybe not sleeping on a bed of nails.
But maybe taking a cold shower once in a while.
Or trying something new that scares you a little.
It's about recognizing that a little bit of struggle can actually be good for you.
I'm seeing a pattern here. A lot of these Stoic principles are interconnected.
How so?
Well, they all seem to point back to this idea of taking responsibility for your own experience.
Cultivating inner strength.
and aligning yourself with the natural order of things.
It's a holistic philosophy focused on living a virtuous and fulfilling life.
And there's still so much more to unpack.
This idea of pushing ourselves kind of reminds me of another Stoic practice.
Okay, what's...
Memento mori.
Remember death? Sounds a bit intense.
It's not about dwelling on death or being afraid of it. It's about using that awareness of our mortality to live a more fulfilling life.
Okay. I'm listening. How does that work?
The source puts it like this: death is at our shoulder every day.
That does sound ominous.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a reminder that our time is precious.
Exactly. We shouldn't waste it on things that don't really matter.
So maybe instead of rushing around, we should slow down and appreciate the small things.
A beautiful sunset, a conversation with a loved one.
It's about making the most of each day. And that connects to another idea from this transcript:
What's that?
the power of small changes.
I like that.
It's easy to get caught up in those big goals, but often it's the small everyday things that make a real difference.
The transcript puts it this way: lives are often not made better in the accomplishments of lofty goals or the collection of expensive things, so much as they are improved by the small day-to-day changes of one's habits.
It's like meditating for a few minutes each morning, going for a walk, reading before bed.
Those small things, when you do them consistently, can have a big impact.
And it shifts your focus from chasing happiness in the future,
To finding it right now in the present moment.
which leads us to another interesting Stoic principle:
Amor fati.
loving one's fate. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Does that mean just accepting everything that happens, even the bad stuff?
It's not about resignation. It's about actively embracing reality as it is.
The good and the bad.
All of it. It's understanding that we can't control everything.
But we can control how we respond.
And that acceptance can be really empowering.
This source says acceptance of reality does not mean to submit to it. It is simply learning the ability to see it objectively and accepting that in this moment, that is the state of the world.
So it's acknowledging what is without letting it control you.
Then you can make choices from that place of acceptance. It all comes back to separating what we can control from what we can't.
And remembering that our thoughts and reactions are always within our control.
This transcript is full of practical advice, like how to handle anger. It says, whenever you feel anger towards a person, think of what led them to behave in such a way. It is all too easy for us to pass judgment from our own perspective. But it is a very different thing to try and put yourself in the shoes of the wrongdoer and try to understand what hardship they have gone through, what burden they might carry, or how life has treated them leading up to the moment which you found so offensive.
So much wisdom in that quote. It's a call for empathy.
Even when someone has done something wrong,
It's recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles.
we don't have to excuse bad behavior.
But maybe we can try to understand it a little better.
This source material also reminds us that most people are trying to do the best they can with what they have, and while we all are responsible for our actions, there is often a line to draw between a person's experience and their behavior.
Meaning people's actions are often shaped by their past experiences.
Their traumas, their wounds.
It doesn't excuse the behavior.
But it does invite us to be a little more understanding.
That understanding can lead to better communication.
Healthier relationships.
This next passage is one of my favorites. From the very first shifts of the universe, the most simple of elements gathered together to produce clouds and then solid bodies. Bodies that began to form the very first ingredients for life. Those ingredients formed life, the circle of birth and death, until eventually they came together in the exact configuration needed to create you and me. Like the beginning, the peak, and the crashing end of a wave, our lives are simply part of a grander cycle. We are formed, we experience, and we end. And with our end comes the opportunity for the reconfiguration of our atoms to allow another to come and go and to enjoy the experience of life and so on forever.
Whoa, that puts things in perspective. We're all part of something much bigger.
A vast interconnected web of life.
It's humbling.
It really is. Another quote that stuck with me is this one. The world is what it is. It is not what we expect it to be.
That's so true. We create all these stories in our heads about how things should be.
And then we get disappointed when reality doesn't match up.
But what if we just accepted the world as it is?
Without judgment, without resistance. Maybe that would make us happier.
It's about surrendering to the present moment, even if it's not what we wanted.
This YouTube transcript is full of such powerful ideas.
It's like a roadmap to a more fulfilling life.
But it's not a passive roadmap. It requires effort.
Awareness. And a willingness to challenge ourselves.
It's about actively developing those Stoic virtues.
Wisdom, justice, courage, temperance. and then putting them into action,
Making conscious choices every day.
focusing on what we can control,
Embracing change.
practicing gratitude.
Approaching every situation with compassion and understanding.
You're all interconnected. Our actions have a ripple effect.
It's about living a life that's meaningful and purposeful.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
Sometimes the simplest things are the most profound.
Like this quote, "A gift consists not in what is done or given,
Right.
but in the intention of the giver or doer."
It's about the heart behind our actions.
Acting with love, kindness, generosity, even in the smallest ways.
Those small acts of kindness can make a big difference.
It's like planting seeds of hope.
This conversation has been so inspiring.
It's amazing how much wisdom we've found in this YouTube transcript.
A real treasure trove of insights. And there's still more to explore.
You know, through all these Stoic ideas, there's this theme of self-mastery.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, true freedom comes from mastering your own mind.
Exactly. The Stoics were all about controlling your thoughts, emotions, reactions.
It's where your true power lies. This quote from the transcript says it all. No man is free who is not master of himself.
Powerful stuff. So if you're ruled by your impulses or always reacting to things outside yourself,
You're not really in control of your own life.
and this self-mastery, it's even more important when things get tough.
This transcript has some good advice for dealing with tough times. Apply reason to difficulties. Harsh circumstances can be softened, narrow limits can be widened, and burdensome things can be made to press less severely on those who bear them cleverly.
So use reason and creativity to find solutions instead of getting overwhelmed.
That's the idea. It's about building resilience.
That ability to adapt and overcome obstacles.
Exactly. It's essential for a fulfilling life.
Reminds me of that saying, it does not matter what you bear, but how you bear it.
Not about avoiding challenges, but facing them with courage.
And how you face them, your attitude, that makes all the difference.
Two people can face the same thing, but their experience will be completely different.
It's like life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react.
This transcript says it perfectly. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment.
So it's not the event itself that causes suffering.
It's how you interpret it.
And if you can change your interpretation, change your perspective.
You can change your whole experience.
Which brings us back to that Stoic principle, focus on what you can control.
You can't control everything that happens.
But you can control your thoughts and reactions.
That's where your freedom is. This YouTube transcript has so much practical advice. Like this one. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential, what the logos of a social being requires, and in the requisite way. Which brings a double satisfaction to do less better.
It's like do less, but do it better. It's a good reminder in our crazy busy world.
We're always being told to do more, be more, have more.
It's exhausting.
It can lead to burnout, stress, feeling empty.
But maybe real peace comes from simplifying.
Focusing on what truly matters.
Another theme that keeps coming up, the importance of virtue.
The Stoics believed that virtue was the key to a good life.
Living in accordance with nature, both human nature and the nature of the universe.
There's a quote that really nails it. For mankind, evil is injustice and cruelty and indifference to a neighbor's trouble, while virtue is brotherly love and goodness and justice and beneficence and concern for the welfare of your neighbor.
So true happiness comes from living a life that's in line with your values.
And contributes to the well-being of others.
It's about cultivating those qualities within yourself. Wisdom, justice, courage, temperance.
And then expressing them through your actions.
It's not about being perfect. It's about trying to be better every day.
This whole conversation has been so insightful.
It's like we found a treasure chest of wisdom.
It's given me a new perspective on life.
And this quote sums it all up. Let us rise up and be thankful for if we didn't learn a lot, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us be thankful.
What a great way to end our deep thought journey.
It's a reminder to be grateful, even when things are tough.
Thank you for joining us on the Deep Thought Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of Stoic wisdom as much as we did.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And be sure to check out our other podcasts for more deep dives into fascinating topics.
And if you want to learn more about this stuff, we've included some great resources in the show notes below.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep growing.